Are you doing the intro?
No, you do the intro again. All right, okay.
What about,
I'll do the intro, and then I'll turn it over to you.
And like an outro too. So like, all right, that wraps it up. Thanks for watching. Find us on all these different platforms to watch.
We'd like to thank our producers, Aaron.
Follow us on Instagram. Because last time we didn't do an outro, we were just like, all right, done.
Okay.
So.
Okay, good call. I'll do an intro. All right. All right. We clapping? We're both recording? Paxton, is that one going? Okay. Here we go. Welcome everybody to the Work Hard, Play Hard podcast. I am Ryan Harding, and today I have Spencer White with me, and he's actually going to interview me about credit. So we're going to talk about credit. Credit is one of those questions that a lot of people have questions on, and to be honest, it's super important. So Spencer, I'll give it to you, and let's get started.
Good deal. I got a list of questions for you. So for the first-time home buyers that are listening to the podcast,
Yep.
Why is credit important?
So, great question. We live in a world that has a lot of people, right? And so we don't know each other. So credit is basically your scale of trustworthiness. Okay, are you trustworthy or not? Okay, and that's what credit scores are. They tell you, hey, yeah, I'm actually trustworthy. Yeah, I pay my bills on time. I've had credit history for this amount of time. I don't have a lot of debt on my credit. Stuff like that, right? It's just a way to show, hey, are you trustworthy or not? And so a lot of times people, so some people are scared of debt, right? Hey, I don't want to get into debt. I don't want to have any debt. And obviously that's great. You don't want to have debt, right?
Right.
But sometimes people are so scared that they don't ever get a credit card, they don't ever get any kind of loan, and so there's nothing on their credit, which means they're not trustworthy at all. In the sense that basically nobody knows.
Their mom says they're trustworthy.
Their mom says they're trustworthy, but yeah, no. At the end of the day, they just don't know, right? Nobody knows who they are, and so that's why you have to have something out there that shows, hey, yeah, I pay my bills on time. Okay,
gotcha. So, if let's say I'm a first-time home buyer, I don't have any credit.
Yeah.
How do I start? And what are the most important things that I should be focusing on to build credit?
Great question. So I have kids that are starting to get older now, and the first thing that I'm trying to get them to do when they turn 18 is to get a credit card. Okay, that's the first thing they're going to do is get a credit card, and the reason is one of the things that credit needs is history, and you don't have history without history, right? You just got to get that going. Okay, and so I would sign up for a credit card as soon as you can at 18. Now, some people will be saying, hey, why would you give a credit card? They're just going to get in debt, different things like that. Or so the reality is when you get a credit card, everybody thinks you have to carry a balance on it to start accruing credit. You do not, okay? So you can open a credit card, get a $500,000 limit, and throw it in a drawer and never use it, okay? You may have to use it maybe once every 6 months or once a year to obviously keep it open. But to get credit, you do not have to keep a balance on it, okay?
So you're talking about just using it, paying it off every month.
So yeah, you can use it and pay it off every month, and that's probably what most people will do. But let's say you're scared of debt and you don't even want to use it, that's fine too, okay? You can throw it in a drawer and never use it, and still you'll be building credit. Okay?
Because it's available and you're showing that I don't
That's
I have
exactly.
a strain.
That's exactly. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. You're showing you have it, and then the other point is that it'll still show an on-time payment every month. Okay, even though that on-time payment is zero, but it's still showing on-time payments every month. Okay, and so that's how you start building credit is by getting these credit cards. So I would actually recommend getting 2-3 credit cards. Find some that have cool rewards, different things like that. I would never carry a balance on a credit card. Never just pay the minimum payment. Always pay it in full if you can. I understand that sometimes things happen and you can't. But if you're going to have credit cards, the only way I would have credit cards is if I'm going to pay them off in full every month. But then that helps to build credit, and that makes you more trustworthy, right?
Okay. So what, you're only supposed to use a certain amount every month, right? And it's 30%. You don't want to go more than 30% of your limit, right? Or what's the rule?
Yeah. So great question. So let's say you have a credit card that has $1,000 limit. So if you're using it every month and it's accruing a balance on there, once you start going over 30%, okay, then it starts to affect your credit score, okay? Because you're utilizing more of that available credit, and so it starts to hurt your credit score because it shows, hey, starting to get into some debt here, right? So you always want to try to keep that balance below 30% of the limit, okay? So if you can do that, that'll keep your credit scores good, okay? So obviously, if you are using it or you're making a big purchase or something like that, just make sure you pay it down then right away. Instead of, normally you would wait till the statement's due and it says you owe this much, but whatever that statement balance is, that's what gets reported to the credit bureaus, okay? So everybody's like, hey, well, I don't carry a large balance and stuff like that, or I just made this purchase. But again, as long as you can pay it off before the statement balance happens, that'll be good, okay?
Gotcha. So, I've heard of like first-time home buyers or young people, whatever, who have the idea of like, let's take out a car loan in order to build credit. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, what I would say, so getting a car loan is, yes, a good idea. However, if you have cash to pay for that car loan, or for that car, I would say do the cash instead. Like, I wouldn't get a car loan just to build credit. If you need a car loan, sure, go for it, okay? But I wouldn't get a car loan just to build credit, I guess is my point. Because I would go back to my main point of, hey, really, credit cards are a great way to build credit because you don't actually have to pay interest on it. A car loan, you would pay interest on it, right?
Sure.
So if you want a car loan, great. I mean, if you want that car, great, go for it. But you don't have to have a car loan to build credit.
Gotcha.
It's one of many ways to build.
Maybe like good, better, best.
Good, better, best. There you go. Yep. I'd say best is a credit card. Don't use it. Better is a credit card that you use, but you always pay off.
Gotcha.
And you can switch those. Those are both good, better, or best. But yeah, and then good would be get a car loan and pay interest on it and stuff.
So you'd say most important things to building credit: your usage, how much you use on a card, paying it off every single month, history,
which is why get a credit card early.
Right, and then making on-time payments, paying it off every month.
Correct.
So
yeah, exactly.
Anything else on tips for building credit for someone who may have none?
I mean, ultimately, here's one tip. If you have somebody that's like, hey, I want to buy a home next month, and they have no credit, it's going to take a while, okay?
Gotcha.
So sometimes a quick workaround for that is, hey, mom and dad have a credit card, and they've had it for years and years and years. You can have them add you as what's called an authorized user, okay? If you do that, then now you are on their credit card and you get tapped into their 20-year history, okay? And so that's a way to kind of quickly get a credit score for you in a very short period of time.
As long as they trust you.
That as long as they trust you, right? And I guess as long as you know that that credit card you're being added to is a good one too.
Sure.
Because if they've had late payments on that one, hey, don't put me on that one, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of two-way street there. But yeah, that's a quick way to get it.
Gotcha. Okay. Anything else on that? Like tips or anything else for building credit?
No, I think we've covered it. I mean, ultimately, credit's important. I mean, you can't, in this day and age, you have to have a score.
Gotcha.
And I know a lot of people, think they don't, but you do. I mean, to get a mortgage, you have to have a score. There's no way to get a mortgage without a score.
Gotcha. Okay. Moving into obviously the most important thing that you can do with your credit, I would think, is buying a house. How does that play into buying a house? Like, where does your scores need to be? What's the advantage of having a higher score when getting a home loan? Things like that.
So credit score is very important for buying a home. Basically, if you're 760 and above, you're getting the best rate on mortgage insurance, on interest rates, everything like that. Okay.
Okay.
And then different programs have different qualifications there. But for a normal conventional loan, okay, every 20 points the credit score, the interest rate gets worse. Okay, so 760 and above is the best. 740 is now a little bit worse. 720, a little bit worse. 700, 680. For every 20 points, it gradually gets worse and worse and worse.
And you can go down to what?
So you can go down to 620 on a loan, but there's big asterisks next to that. Okay, people advertise. I've seen people advertise to down to 580, which technically we can do too, but like you can't get anybody approved that low. So like it's a nice advertisement, but it's not reality. Okay.
Sure.
Because what it is you run it through the system, it doesn't like you. Okay. So 620 is kind of the lowest where a normal person can get approved for. But obviously the higher, the more likelihood of being approved.
Gotcha.
So having that higher credit score helps, and obviously gets you able to qualify for more home, and also a better interest rate, right?
And better mortgage insurance. You
Better
mentioned,
mortgage
right?
insurance, yeah, exactly. Mortgage insurance. A lot of people think mortgage insurance is the same, but it is tiered. So every, if your credit scores are better, you get cheaper mortgage insurance. So
Gotcha. Talk to us about cosigners. So I think one common misconception with first-time homebuyers is that you don't have good credit. Well, your parents can just cosign, but in reality,
yes,
the actual buyer, the first-time homebuyer has to have a credit score above 660 as well. How does that play in with a co-borrower?
So yeah, that is a common mistake. Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think it comes from the car industry. I think with cars, if you have a cosigner and their credit scores are better than yours, I think that helps you, So I think I'm not a car lender, but I think that's kind of where that misconception comes from. But essentially on a home, the only reason you ever want a co-borrower on a home is for income, okay? So if your credit score is in the toilet and their credit score is awesome, I have to go off of the lower of the two of you, okay? So it doesn't really matter what their credit score is if it's higher. It's whoever's lower, that's what you go off of. Okay, so the reason you would add a co-borrower is mom and dad, hey, they have income. You're in school, maybe you're working part-time jobs, so you want mom and dad to co-sign because they have a full-time job, they're making money. Now that helps you qualify for that home. Okay, but it would never be for credit. If your credit scores, are less than 620, you have to just get those up.
Sure. Same thing with two borrowers on a loan. Not necessarily cosigner, but like husband, wife, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We go from the lower of the two scores, right?
Correct. Which is why sometimes if one spouse is working, the other spouse isn't, and the spouse that's not working is, has bad credit, sometimes we'll just take them off because it's just easier to do it in the one spouse's name because then we can get you a better deal. Do it that way, and we can always still add that other spouse to title afterwards.
Okay.
So they still own the home; they're still protected if one spouse were to die. But as far as getting them the best deal, that's the best way to go.
Gotcha. Okay. One last question.
Yeah.
In terms of maybe bad credit or low credit. So say they have a history, but it's just not great.
Yeah.
So a borrower comes to you, hey, my credit score is low and I need help. And what are some tips that you give? Obviously, you've been doing this for 15 years.
Yeah.
Maybe not like a credit repair expert, but you do have tips. What do you say to people like that?
Yeah. And we do. We help people all the time. I would say the biggest, if that person is motivated, we can help them get their credit score up, and we don't charge them anything. It's just we just try to help people.
Sure. Yeah.
So we're not, credit repair companies, they're trying to make money on you. They're trying to charge you for something. We're not doing that. We're just trying to help you buy a home. So, but as far as credit repair ideas, one thing I think that I see a lot of is the quickest way to get their credit scores up would be to pay down debt, right? Going back to that 30% thing, let's say they have a lot of credit card debt. So if they can get those balances lower, that'll boost their credit scores up the quickest. That's the best, easiest way, okay? Sometimes though, people have late payments, they have collections, they have other negative stuff on there, okay? That's harder, frankly, to get to just get a score up higher.
Sure.
So the only way to combat that in that scenario is essentially to have more good credit. So I've seen people where they had a bankruptcy, and because of the bankruptcy, they just stopped using credit because they don't want to get in debt again, which is obviously, they're trying to be good, right? Hey, I went into bankruptcy, I don't want to do that again, right? So, which is great, that's good, that's a good thing. But what I would go back to my first comment, which is get a credit card, get a couple credit cards. Don't use them then, okay? If you're scared to get into debt again, don't use them. But you need to have credit again, because otherwise all we see on a credit report is the bad. We don't see anything new. And even though the bad's 5 years old at this point, there's nothing new on there, okay? So it's not getting better. There's nothing else coming on there. So they need credit, okay? So that's one way to help is get good stuff on there that outweighs the bad.
Sure.
Okay.
Gotcha. You can also try to erase certain negative items and things like that. Disputing on, there's other things like that.
There totally is, and that's what I was going to say. Yeah. So with collections and stuff like that. So a lot of times, if you have a collection and it's not paid, if you dispute it, they're going to say, no, that's real. You need to pay us, right? Yeah. But what happens is once you've paid that collection, you can dispute it again, and most likely those collection counts won't hedge the way, I guess you could say.
Gotcha.
Because
or if it's a mistake or something, because I've had that before where
yeah.
I saw something like, hey, what's going on? And it was when I was selling a vehicle, and the company was supposed to pay it off and whatever, but it just got lost in translation. But I provided something that said, hey, I paid it. and they were able to remove it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yes.
gotcha.
Yeah, totally.
Remove those. Anything else on, tips or anything for that?
On improving credit and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Ultimately, be careful. If you have collections and stuff like that, or you have, late payments. One option is always to try to talk to the company that gave you the late payment, talk to the company that gave you the collection, see if they'll remove it if you pay it, see if they'll remove it for, like I had one late in 20 years, can you get rid of that?
Sure.
It's always worth asking. Is it a long shot? Yeah, of course. So,
Gotcha.
but I have seen people get success from it. So I'd say it's worth trying, but it is a long shot.
Gotcha. Good deal.
Okay, we're good?
Think so. That's
Okay.
all the questions I've got for you.
All right.
Hopefully that's
Okay.
helpful to some first-time home buyers who are out there listening. So.
Well, I hope so too. I think credit is one of those things that, again, it's super important, and a lot of people don't totally understand, and that's why I say, these hopefully these are good tips for people.
Sure.
It's what I'm trying to teach my own children, right? Getting credit cards, doing these things, because most people don't eat, drink, and this kind of stuff, right? It's
Yeah.
But this, for some reason, I like it. It's weird, but my daughter wants to be a nurse, so she doesn't really care about finances and stuff like
Sure.
that. But that's why it's like, no, hey, do these things.
When she wants to buy a house, it'll
That's
be
exactly.
important.
That's exactly. It'll be important then.
One last
So-
question, actually. I
Okay,
just
go
thought of
ahead.
it.
All right.
Last thing I think it's important. Where can you go to get a credit report, or how do you even look at your credit?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
what do you
That's a
say,
great
like,
question.
from, I have no idea?
Yeah.
How do I even look at it?
So, there's a free site from the government called annualcreditreport.com. Okay. So annualcreditreport.com. That's the only free site where you can actually pull a credit report and see what's on there.
And that's completely accurate. That's your actual.
That's directly from the
Scores.
bureaus.
Okay.
It's a government site. I think if you go to freecreditreport.com, ironically, it's not free.
Sure.
so
Yeah.
so annualcreditreport.com. That's the free site from the government. You can pull your credit, see where it's at, see what's on there, stuff like that. It's a great way to check to make sure it's accurate, right?
Sure.
People
Yeah.
are worried about fraud, different things like that. There's several sites that you can use, like, Credit Karma is one, different things that kind of show you where your credit scores are at. I will say those are never 100% accurate. They're ballpark, right?
Sure.
So I've people say, hey, my credit score is this on Credit Karma. Well, and I pull it and it's lower, right? So they're ballpark.
Yeah. I mostly use those just to see, if something changed. Because, I'll see
Yes.
it, go either way. And
Yes.
I want to see what happened.
Yeah.
So I can either fix it or, whatever it is.
That's a good point, actually. I've seen that where people pull it and with Credit Karma, and they're saying, hey, I show my score just went up. And so then we pull it again, and it has gone up. Maybe
Yeah.
not as much as Credit Karma said, but it still did go up. So you're
Exactly,
right.
yeah.
The direction's right. Correct. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Good point. So, okay. No, great question. That was a good concluding question. So, okay. Well, thanks for listening. Hopefully, again, this was helpful for people. Credit's very important, and follow us on Instagram, Facebook. Work Hard in Home Mortgage Team. We're here to help you buy a home. So
Podcast on iTunes.
podcast on iTunes. Yep. Thanks.